Hollywood, the dream factory, is also a stage for nightmares. What seems to be a conquest of glory and wealth often hides a subworld of loneliness, tragedies, and mysteries. Great stars, who light up the screens with talent and charisma, are frequently consumed by addictions, scandals, or premature deaths. All this raises a disturbing question. Does fame demand a higher price than we can imagine? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I am Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Some say the answer to these mysteries is not just in the psychological pressure, but in something much darker and invisible. A disturbing theory suggests the existence of an entity that nurtures and manipulates the destiny of stars, the so-called demon of fame. But in the end, can success be a pact, and who sets the rules of this deadly game? Fame is seductive. It promises wealth, recognition, and immortality. But why do so many who reach the top find such a dark fate? It's funny how the promise of immortality comes with something that seems to suck the soul. Is it worth it? Behind the glamour, there is a crushing psychological pressure. Being the center of attention requires constant perfection, and any mistake, however small, can turn into a worldwide scandal. However, the frequency with which stars face drastic falls and inexplicable situations seems to go beyond logic. Could we be dealing with something deeper, something that transcends the natural? Many stories fit this unsettling pattern. Marilyn Monroe, for example, was found dead under circumstances that have never been fully explained. She was at the height of her career, yet she lived a life marked by complicated relationships and a sense of emptiness. Before her death, Marilyn confided to friends that she felt she was being watched. A simple outburst or a clue to something more. Heath Ledger is another famous case. After playing the Joker in The Dark Knight, a role that required extreme psychological immersion, Ledger began to show signs of mental and emotional exhaustion. He died from an accidental overdose of medications, but some say he felt something darker was drawing near. His transformation for the role, which many believe sucked out his essence, raises questions about how some performances can open doors to unknown energies. The pattern is hard to ignore. Great stars often report changes in their personality and behavior right after reaching the height of success. Amy Winehouse, whose incomparable voice made her one of the greatest artists of her generation, seemed to be constantly in conflict with invisible forces. She even said there was a demon trying to take her down. Shortly after that, her untimely death joined the mysterious list of the 27 Club, a group of artists who died at 27, always under strange circumstances. Why do so many stars speak about sensations of being pursued or controlled? Is it just a metaphor for the pressure they face, or is something truly watching them? Psychologists argue that fame, with its load of stress and exposure, can cause paranoia and self-destructive behaviors. But these explanations do not satisfy everyone. How to explain the repetitive patterns, the unexplained deaths, and the disturbing statements? Another intriguing aspect is the isolation many stars face. Britney Spears, who endured years of public battles over her conservatorship, is a classic example. Despite her wealth and success, her personal life was marked by a constant feeling of imprisonment and loneliness. She herself admitted in interviews that she felt she was living a watched existence. Those who believe in the existence of the demon of fame claim that it chooses its victims carefully. It lures them with promises of success and recognition, but once they reach the top, they become prisoners of a cycle of self-destruction and suffering. But why these stars? Are they truly chosen, or are they just the most visibly crushed by the pressure? Even more disturbing is the fact that the stories are not limited to the past. Recently, Kanye West caused controversy by making incoherent statements about his personal life and the music industry. He went so far as to say that there are forces controlling Hollywood, but no one dares to talk about them. Statements like these are quickly dismissed as conspiracy theories, but should they be? In addition to external pressures, there are reports of stars who say they feel strange energies around them. Some have reported recurring nightmares or experiences that border on the supernatural. These phenomena, often dismissed as delusions, could be signs pointing to the existence of something beyond human understanding. Ultimately, fame seems to carry an invisible weight, a burden that many cannot bear. But if there really is a demon behind all this, what does it truly want? Is it just a symbol for the evils of fame, or are we facing something real and frightening? With each new story, questions accumulate, but answers remain scarce. Hollywood, with all its radiance, seems to hide a darkness that few dare to explore. The idea of a demon of fame may sound absurd to some, but when looking at the patterns emerging in the stories of celebrities, it's hard to ignore the coincidences. The phenomenon goes beyond isolated tragedies, connecting seemingly distant lives by an invisible thread of mysteries and fatalities. How to explain the existence of such specific patterns that repeat over the decades? One of the most discussed examples is the aforementioned 27 Club. Iconic artists like Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, and Amy Winehouse died at 27, all in situations shrouded in mystery, substance abuse, and often feelings of isolation. Is it just a statistical coincidence or a manifestation of something deeper? After all, why exactly does that age seem to be a breaking point? Occult researchers suggest that 27 is a powerful number in many esoteric cultures, symbolizing the end of a cycle. If 27 is the end of a cycle, then are we looking at a mathematical pattern or something that defies logic? The theory proposes that the demon of fame chooses this moment to collect the price of its packs. For others, this number is merely a reflection of the pressure that artists face when they are too young to handle the weight of success. But would that explain why so many of these artists expressed, before their deaths, feelings of fear, persecution, or existential emptiness? The pattern is not limited to age. There is also how often great stars exhibit erratic behavior before their falls. Britney Spears shaving her head, Joaquin Phoenix temporarily leaving acting to pursue a career as a rapper, or Kanye West making bizarre statements on social media. Each case is unique, but the common thread is the same. They all seem to be on the brink of something incomprehensible. Stars who report feeling invisible forces also share consistent stories. One of them was the actress Natalie Wood, who died by drowning under circumstances that still raised doubts. Before her death, Wood said she had a fear of dark water and felt something tragic would happen if she came into contact with it. Her death, involving the renowned actor Christopher Walken and her then-husband, Robert Wagner, still arouses suspicion. Could it be that something truly was predestined to happen? Another pattern that cannot be ignored is the destruction of personal relationships. Stars who reach the peak of fame frequently face painful divorces, estrangement from friends, or family feuds. Lady Gaga, for example, has declared that her rise in music came with a devastating loss in her personal life. In interviews, she has even described fame as a monster that steals everything you love. And what about the emotional toll? Many artists report a growing emptiness, even as they receive worldwide recognition. The singer Elvis Presley, known as the King of Rock, was found dead in his mansion, surrounded by luxury but living in extreme loneliness. The combination of addictions and pressures seems to have been too much even for someone with so much power and influence. We could attribute all this to human weakness and the pitfalls of fame, but there are details that challenge this explanation. In many cases, the stars have inexplicable experiences before their collapses. Reports of whispering voices, constant nightmares, or feelings of being watched are not uncommon. To what extent is this just the product of a mind under pressure, or are we dealing with something more tangible? Interestingly, these stories are not limited to the West. The South Korean entertainment industry is also full of tragedies, with stars like Jong Yoon from the group SHINee and Sully, a former member of the group FX, succumbing to what many describe as the weight of stardom. While the most common explanation is bullying and intense cultural pressure, some suggest that the obsessive pursuit of fame attracts energies that feed on their victims. Perhaps the most uncomfortable question is, why do these stories keep repeating themselves generation after generation? Could it be that fame, by itself, is a catalyst for forces we do not understand? Or is there a system, visible only to a few, that perpetuates this cycle of rise and fall? The patterns, though ignored by many, are too evident to be dismissed as coincidences. If we look closely, we see that the gleam of fame is overshadowed by shadows that insist on following its bearers. Behind the shine of Hollywood stars, there is an invisible web of connections that many prefer to ignore. Although nepotism is a widely known practice in the entertainment industry, some theories go further, suggesting that celebrities do not reach the top by chance. It's the old story, talent is important, but who you know seems to matter more. And sometimes who you descend from, right? They would be part of specific family lineages, chosen and shaped to exert global influence. But what do these lineages really represent, and what would their role be in this power game? The idea that influential figures share family ties is not new. Genealogical studies have shown that celebrities who seem distant are connected in surprising ways. For example, Brad Pitt and Barack Obama are distant cousins, sharing a common ancestor. Taylor Swift is a distant relative of Queen Elizabeth II. Coincidence or evidence that certain families have a special status that puts them in positions of power? Followers of this theory believe that Hollywood stars are part of a type of chosen lineage, going back to families of great historical influence. Some of these families would be linked to ancient secret societies or esoteric groups, such as the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians. It is believed that, over the centuries, these societies identified families with a knack for manipulating masses and integrated them into their circles to perpetuate their influence. One of the most talked about cases is that of Beyoncé and Jay-Z. Frequently associated with occult symbols, the couple is considered by many to be part of this secret lineage. Their shows and music videos are full of symbols alluding to royalty, all-seeing eyes, and pyramids. Could these elements be just artistic choices or indications of a greater connection to esoteric and ancestral traditions? Another intriguing story involves Nicolas Cage. The actor is a direct descendant of August Coppola, of the renowned Coppola family, which includes the director Francis Ford Coppola and Sofia Coppola. Nicolas Cage has also stated in interviews that he is obsessed with historical artifacts and theories of immortality. He even bought a pyramid-shaped crypt for his tomb. But why would an actor be so attached to symbols of power and immortality? The connection to these lineages often goes beyond blood. Some celebrities seem to be chosen not only for their genealogical connections, but for specific traits that make them ideal for certain cultural roles. Madonna, for example, is often described as the queen of pop, but her performances carry strong symbolic elements, including religious and occult references. Could she be a kind of modern priestess, shaped to influence the masses? These theories become even more complex when we analyze the meteoric rise of some artists. Justin Bieber, for instance, was discovered on YouTube, but quickly became a global phenomenon. While many attribute his success to talent and luck, others question whether his connection with powerful industry figures was crucial. Moreover, Bieber has openly spoken about the shadows of Hollywood, suggesting that there is something darker behind the scenes. The link of these lineages also seems to transcend death. Many artists who die prematurely leave behind legacies that are carefully preserved, as we mentioned before. Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, and Michael Jackson are classic examples. Their images continue to be exploited, almost as if they were still part of a bigger plan. Does the connection to these lineages persist even after death? Another interesting point is how the media protects or attacks these figures. Celebrities who dare to break away from the system or question power structures often face drastic consequences. Kanye West, for example, has made statements about how the industry is controlled by invisible forces. After those statements, he was bombarded with criticism and portrayed as unstable. Could that be an attempt to silence someone who knows too much? On the other hand, artists who seem aligned with these forces often achieve astronomical levels of success. Lady Gaga, with her unique aesthetic and extravagant performances, is frequently associated with rituals and esoteric symbols. Some believe she is a chosen one within this system, representing the new generation of global influencers. But what does this all mean? If these lineages truly exist, what is their purpose? Theorists believe they are used to shape culture and influence people's behavior, whether through music, movies, or other forms of entertainment. The hidden messages in their works would be part of a larger plan to control or manipulate society. In the end, the idea of secret lineages of the stars may seem conspiratorial, but there are questions still unanswered. Why are so many influential figures genealogically connected? Why do the same patterns of symbols and narratives appear repeatedly in pop culture? And mainly, who is truly in control of these forces that shape the entertainment world? Hollywood is often described as the land of dreams, but what few realize is that the place of its gleam and glamour may hide a much deeper and darker story. Theories suggest that the city where it all began, Los Angeles, was not chosen by chance. On the contrary, Hollywood's founding may have been strategically planned to take advantage of a unique energy flowing through the region, turning it into an invisible portal for supernatural forces. Since ancient times, The area we now know as Los Angeles was occupied by indigenous tribes like the Tongva, who considered certain sites sacred. Historical accounts indicate that some mountains and rivers in the region were seen as points of contact between the physical and spiritual worlds. These tribes believed that spirits inhabited the land and that rituals performed in these places could invoke specific energies. Could the founders of Hollywood have known this and deliberately built their studios near these points? A clear example of this mysticism in the region is Mount Lee, where the famous Hollywood sign is located. Many do not know that, before the sign was erected, the mountain was used for spiritual gatherings by occultist societies in the early 20th century. Jack Parsons, a renowned scientist and occultist, performed invocation rituals in the area, allegedly trying to open dimensional portals. He was a follower of Aleister Crowley, one of the most controversial figures in modern occultism, who believed in the existence of astral portals that could be accessed at specific locations. Hollywood's major studios, such as Paramount Pictures and Warner Brothers, also have curious stories associated with their locations. Many of these studios were built on land previously used for religious or occult rituals. Paramount, for example, is situated near an old indigenous cemetery. Although this may be a coincidence, some say that the residual energies of the site influence the films and productions that come from there, imbuing them with a unique emotional and spiritual power. But why would these places be considered portals? Some theories suggest that certain points on Earth hold a higher energy density, functioning as a kind of spiritual antenna. Hollywood, with its combination of spiritual history, intense worship by fans, and the constant creation of emotional narratives, may amplify these energies. Have you ever noticed how some movies and songs can stir us deeply? Are these works of art merely the product of human talent, or could they be capturing something greater? Moreover, there are accounts from people who worked in the industry and experienced strange phenomena on film sets. A famous case is the movie Poltergeist, 1982, whose production was marked by a series of inexplicable events, including the deaths of actors involved. It is believed that the use of real skeletons during filming awakened forces that were dormant. But what if it was not only the presence of skeletons? What if the filming location itself was a catalyst for these events? Other productions also have disturbing stories. The Exorcist, 1973, is one example. Many crew members reported feeling presences on set, and several tragedies happened during and after filming. Are these incidents merely coincidences, or could they be the result of invisible energies activated by the combination of the location and the emotional intensity involved in making the movie? The architecture of Los Angeles also raises suspicions. Many of the city's historic buildings, including iconic theaters like the Chinese Theater and the Pantages Theater, have elements reminiscent of occult symbolism. The Chinese Theater, in particular, is famous for its exotic decor and for alleged ghostly apparitions. Many visitors report sensing a presence when walking through its corridors. Could the design of these places have been inspired by spiritual practices aimed at channeling energies from other realms? The most disturbing point of this theory is the idea that these portals are not passive, but actively used. Some suggest that certain films and events are designed to intensify the energy of these locations, functioning as major public rituals. Think of big events like the Oscars, attracting the attention of millions of people around the world. All that emotional energy and mental concentration might be channeled to feed something that remains unseen. If these theories are true, Hollywood is much more than an entertainment industry. It is a stage of invisible forces, where each movie, each show, each event is potentially part of something bigger and much more mysterious. And that leads us to an unsettling question. When we consume the products of this industry, are we just having fun, or are we also feeding these forces with our own energy? Fame is not just a symbol of success. For many, it takes on an almost divine quality. Fans worship their stars with a near-religious fervor, dedicating time, money, and emotional energy to them. But does this worship create something more powerful than we imagine? There is a disturbing theory suggesting that fame turns stages and screens into modern altars, where the collective energy of human devotion can be used as fuel for something supernatural. Ancient spiritual traditions claim that large concentrations of emotional energy can attract invisible forces. If that is true, Hollywood would be the ideal epicenter for such phenomena. Imagine all that love, hate, and euphoria being channeled into something invisible. It's like an emotional power plant. Millions of people invest their emotions in the lives and careers of celebrities, creating an almost uninterrupted stream of energy. Could this energy be the food for something beyond our understanding? The concept is not new. Since ancient times, stories about pacts with the supernatural have surrounded public figures. The violinist Niccolò Paganini, for example, was so talented that many believed he had made a deal with the devil to achieve his mastery. Nowadays, the demon of fame would be a modern version of these legends, feeding not only on the stars' energy, but also on that of their admirers. Major artists' shows often have elements resembling rituals. Blinding lights, crowds in ecstasy, and hidden messages in lyrics or choreography are recurring themes. One of the most controversial examples was Madonna's performance at the 2012 Super Bowl, which was accused of containing occult symbolism. Are these performances merely artistic expression, or could they be interpreted as ritualistic acts that channel greater energies? What makes the theory even more disturbing is the idea that the stars are not in control. Many artists speak of feeling possessed during their performances. Beyoncé, for example, has mentioned her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, who she says takes over when she's on stage. Is it just a metaphor, or is there something darker behind it? Additionally, the abrupt transition between the peak of success and collapse is often marked by personality changes. Some behavior experts suggest this is merely the result of psychological pressure. However, others believe these changes are signs that the stars are being manipulated by something beyond human comprehension. Another intriguing element is the frequent appearance of subliminal messages in music, videos, and movies. Some conspiracy theorists believe these messages are meant to prepare the public to accept occult energies. While many dismiss these ideas as paranoia, one cannot deny that there is a pattern of repeated symbolism in many Hollywood productions. But what would the demon of fame gain from this? According to the theories, it not only consumes the star's energy, but that of the fans as well. Every scream at a concert, every tear shed for a lost idol would be a form of nourishment for this entity. This might explain why tragedies involving celebrities have such a profound impact on popular culture, almost as if they were carefully calculated to maximize collective suffering. A recent example was the death of Chadwick Boseman, whose battle with cancer was kept secret until his passing. The global shock caused by the news was followed by a wave of emotional tributes. While many see it as a tribute to his life and legacy, others question whether there is something else being fed by this collective energy. Fans themselves often do not realize the level of devotion they give to celebrities. For some, attending a show or following an artist's career is almost a spiritual experience. But are we unknowingly participating in an energy cycle that benefits something beyond the idols themselves? The stage, with all its sparkle and magic, may be more than just a place of entertainment. It could be a portal to forces that surpass our understanding, a space where the sacred and the profane intersect. But the real question is, are the stars accomplices in this ritual, or merely pawns in a greater game? The answers remain obscure, but one thing is certain: fame comes at a price, and for many, that price is paid not only with personal suffering, but with something much deeper. A star's death is usually seen as the end of their trajectory, but is it really? For many, fame continues even after the final breath, perpetuated by films, music, and a carefully preserved image. The theory of the demon of fame suggests that death is not the conclusion, but a transition into a new cycle of energetic exploitation. Could these tragedies mark the closing of a contract, or merely the beginning of a new chapter in this entity's dark plan? A striking case is that of Michael Jackson, whose cultural impact remains intact even years after his death. Michael never stopped being a source of emotional energy. And the question is, for whom or for what does that energy go now? Since then, his musical catalog has been continuously re-released, his videos remastered, and even his image has been used in shows through holograms. For some, this extension of his presence seems to be more than just an effort to preserve a legacy. It could be a way to keep the emotional energy of fans flowing towards something greater. Another example is Elvis Presley, who also became an almost mythological figure after his death. His influence remains so strong that there is an entire subculture devoted to him, including theories that he is still alive. Could this be explained simply by fan devotion, or is it evidence that these figures are turned into eternal icons to keep generating energy? Narrative control surrounding these stars is also a point of debate. Many artists leave wills or specific instructions on how they wish to be remembered, but often their legacies are shaped by others. This raises the question, are these manipulations driven only by financial interests, or is there a deliberate effort to maintain a living emotional connection with fans? There are also so-called posthumous films. Heath Ledger, for example, died before finishing his part in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. His absence was filled by other actors, but his image was carefully crafted to keep the emotional impact intact. Was the production continued purely for commercial reasons, or was there more at play? Technology itself seems to be amplifying this dynamic. With advances in artificial intelligence and holograms, it's possible that in the future artists will continue working even after their deaths. This raises ethical and spiritual questions. To what extent can we separate legitimate homage from a possible energetic use of their images? These practices are also not limited to music or film. Sports stars and even public figures, such as politicians, have their stories continually retold and celebrated. In this sense, death is not the end, but a transformation that seems to be carefully orchestrated to extract maximum emotional impact. Is this all coincidence, a natural cultural practice of revering icons, or are we seeing a pattern that reveals something deeper and invisible? If emotional energy can truly be manipulated, as many spiritual traditions suggest, this would mean that we are all, unknowingly, taking part in this game. The idea that stars become eternal puppets is disturbing. After all, if their lives are already consumed by fame and life, is it fair that their deaths be turned into yet another spectacle? Or is this just an illusion to disguise the true nature of the system that feeds the demon of fame? The most unsettling question is whether this entity truly chooses its victims, or if anyone who pursues fame is automatically at risk. Maybe fame, with all its radiance, is not a gift but a trap meticulously prepared. Hollywood, with all its shine and glamour, seems to be much more than a mere dream factory. The stories of tragic downfalls, inexplicable behavior, and hidden connections lead us to a disquieting question. Is the price of fame higher than we imagine? Whether it's due to psychological pressure, dark patterns, or invisible forces that seem to manipulate the industry, the truth is that success never comes without consequences. These theories make us reflect on how much we know, or think we know, about the entertainment world. Are these coincidences merely the result of the human mind trying to find meaning in chaos, or are we actually facing something bigger and more frightening? This story is just one piece, and one day, maybe you'll see the entire puzzle. If this made you think too, subscribe and like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.